All right. I'm continuing to read E Squared by Pam Grout. Going to read the introduction here, which is 27 pages long. So I don't think I'll be reading anything else. Experiment 1 begins on page 27. So this is the introduction, and I started to read it just to see if it was worth reading, and it seems like it is. So I'm going to continue right here. It says, collapse of the wave, where we learn we are badly misinformed. I guess I think it'll look better if you can see the book, right? Wouldn't that look better with me reading it to you as opposed to like this? Yeah, I'm just guessing. All right, a quote from Neville Goddard. Gee, there's a shock. Man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Now, so that's our delusion. Therefore, there are no other causes than our own state of consciousness. Neville also said the entire world is you pushed out. I don't even know what that means. Because if the entire world is me pushed out, then that means the entire world is you pushed out. Well, how can the entire world be both you pushed out and me pushed out and everybody pushed out? What does he even mean by that? So we're just perceiving a world that it's only true from our perspective, but so everyone else is perceiving their own version of the world, which is a completely different world? And only their state of consciousness dictates what happens to their world and my state of consciousness? No, I'm pretty sure that what happens in this world, the world that you and I are in, we're all aware of it when it happens. We all hear the exact same things that are reported, whether you hear it from the news. I mean, I'm pretty sure we all saw 9/11. I mean, we all know who William Shakespeare is. So I don't understand that there are no other causes than our own state of consciousness. So if the entire world is me pushed out, then when I saw 9/11, you saw something else? Do you see my confusion here? I'm having a hard time believing that we're asleep dreaming a dream and you're dreaming your dream and it's in a different dream and you're in a different reality. No, that the same things are happening. You know, the Mandela effect. Okay, that is odd, but I'm very confused by some of the things that Neville said, especially when he started believing that he was God. That's when I think he became delusional. Anyway, but he believed we were all God. You're God. Okay. All right. So God is not all powerful then. If I'm God, then God is not all powerful. I mean, that's just but he would say, oh no, yeah, you are. You just don't realize it. Okay. All right, let me start reading here. Any illusionist worth his magic wand understands that the most important ingredient in his sleight of hand repertoire, I don't even know how to say that word, is diversion. A magician diverts his audience attention away from what he's really doing and directs it toward something else that seems crucial, but of course isn't. That's what we've done. Diverted all our attention to the physical world. These sensory bluffs, in quotes, have caused us to miss the fact that what is invisible, what we can't see with our eyes, is actually more fundamental to life than what we do see. Quantum physics tells us, and this is another thing that I question, how do we know this is true? How do we know that this is true? Quantum physics tells us that the invisible energy realm, collectively referred to as the field, or the FP as I call it, is the primary governing force of the material realm. It's the blueprint that forms reality. Indeed, we now know that the universe is made of nothing but waves and particles of energy. We know this? Like 2 plus 2 equals 4, we know this? Because I don't, but okay, all right. But waves and particles of energy that conform to our expectations, judgments, and beliefs. Subtle energies, thoughts, emotions, and consciousness play the starring roles in our life experiences, but they're invisible. We haven't attempted to understand them or use them in our favor. To change the world is a simple matter of changing these expectations and beliefs. It's truly that easy. Something tells me that's not easy, but we'll see. To bring something into the physical world requires focusing not on what we see, but on what we want to see. Her little bold words here. Good vibrations. A quote, El Nino of human consciousness has arrived. Diane Collins, author of Do You Quantum Think? ? Okay, just say it. How can something as simple as thought influence the world? Thank you. Let me just point out that 100 years ago, nobody would have believed songs sung by a bunch of American Idol contestants could pass through brick, glass, wood, and steel to get from a transmitter tower to your television set either. Nobody would have believed a cell phone no bigger than a deck of cards would allow you to talk to your sister 2,000 miles away. Your thoughts, like the 289 TV channels and like your voice on the cell phone, are vibrational waves. When you hear Eminem rapping about his daughter Haley, your eardrum is catching a vibrational sound wave. That's a fancy way of saying, I can hear what you're saying when you say it, and I can hear sounds and noises that are being made. I don't see what's so fantastic about that, but okay. I'm gonna continue to be skeptical until I'm convinced. This is the way I'm gonna be. When you see Brad Pitt's cane or Madonna's single leather glove, accessories they sported at the 2012 Golden Globes, you're seeing patterns of vibrational light waves. Okay, so everything we see is patterns of vibrational light waves. See, why make it specific like Brad Pitt's cane? I don't even know what that is. Or Madonna's single leather glove. Well, so everything we see. You're trying to make it sound fancy when all you're really saying is everything we see is vibrational light waves, and everything we hear are vibrational waves. Sight and sound, okay? And that's what your thoughts are. Vibrational energy waves that interact and influence the FP. All right, I can see how that could be true. It's bizarre. It seems kind of magic. What's the famous book, Think and Grow Rich? I doubt very much he got rich by sitting in a room thinking all day, and one day he got up and went, wow, I'm rich. I'm pretty sure his thoughts alone did not make him rich. Pretty sure. Actually, I know for a fact his thoughts didn't make him rich. Every thought you have ever had, or ever will have, creates a vibration that goes out into the FP. Sure. Extending forever. Sure. These vibrations meet other vibrations, crisscrossing in an incredible maze of energy. Oh, well, then I'm not the only one who, I'm not 100% responsible for my reality. All the other vibrations interacting with each other are, which makes me a victim of circumstances. Is that not a fact? Based on what she just said, crisscrossing in an incredible maze of energy. All vibrations, all thoughts from all people. Then I'm not I'm just one of many. And that's why we have chaos in the world. Anyway, get enough energy together and it clumps into matter. Hardens into fact, as Neville would say. Remember what Einstein said, matter is formed out of energy. Okay. The field of potentiality simply follows the energy you send out. Then why couldn't the man just sit in his room and think that he was rich, and if he just kept thinking, he'd become rich? And your thought vibrations, wow. Beginning a sentence with thought. I'm just gonna get all grammar Nazi on this woman. This is her sentence. And your thought, the field of potentiality simply follows the energy you send out. Period. Should have been a comma. You goof. Who's your editor? And your thought vibrations draw other vibrations that match. And your thought vibrations, the field of potentiality simply follows the energy you send out, and your thought vibrations draw other vibrations that match. Here's one small example. A few years ago, I wanted a potato masher. I didn't mention it to anyone. I just made a mental note. Next time you're at Walmart, buy a potato masher. That very night, my friend Wendy, who was cleaning out her drawers, stopped by with a couple of no longer needed cooking utensils, including a potato masher. Another time, I decided I needed more laughter in my life. Within a couple weeks, I began dating Todd, a funny co-worker who eventually became a comedian. Now, atheists would say these are all coincidences, because when you have billions of people in the world, coincidences will absolutely happen. They will occur all the time. Random coincidences. That's what I think the atheist would say. But okay, the coincidences we see in our lives are just energy and the FP at work. And the FP is the field of whatever she called it. Most of the time we employ energy inadvertently, totally oblivious to the fact that what we think, say, and do makes a difference. Consequently, we activate this limitless power to follow a default program that makes no use of imagination or possibility. All right. People think Jesus is the be-all and end-all because he was so good at manipulating energy and matter. Period. Should be a comma. But as he so poignantly pointed out, although these aren't his exact words, you too are demand. You too are demand. Okay. I'm a single mom, not exactly the best stereotype in which to be cast. Like being black or Jewish, it brings up certain preconceived notions. People automatically expect me to be poor, maybe on welfare. While that's certainly one of the available channels, I prefer to watch a different channel. I prefer to focus on a different reality. Here's what it says on my website. Pam Grout is a world traveler, a loving mother, a best-selling author, a millionaire, and an inspiring witness to everyone she meets. I started focusing on those things 20 years ago, before I'd ever had a child, before I became a world traveler or an author, and for that matter, before I even liked myself all that much. Focusing on what I wanted obviously worked because now I can proudly say that all but one of the above are true. I'll let you guess which one is yet to manifest. So far, I've written 16 books, 2 screenplays, a live soap opera, and enough magazine articles that I haven't starved in 20 years without a 9-to-5 job. I maintain a travel blog, www.georgeclooney.sleptthere.com, that has taken me to all 7 continents. I've written about everything from bungee jumping in New Zealand to carpet buying in Morocco to picking coffee in Nicaragua. I have yet to jump out of an airplane, but I have to save something for my 90th birthday. All right. Bold face. The first step in spiritual enlightenment, colon, give up your powerful attachment to conventional reality. Quote, we are all captives of a story, from Daniel Quinn, author of Ishmael. Reality ain't all it's cracked up to be. In fact, it's not a stretch to say that everything you think is real is not. Okay? Physicists, for going on 100 years now, have not known what to make of the fact that Newton's classical view of the world has absolutely no bearing on the way the world works at its core. The subatomic realm so defies all reason and logic that most scientists, scared to endanger their academic credentials, have more or less ignored the fact that life is nothing like what we pretend it is. In fact, it's so freaky, particles popping up out of nowhere, time slowing down and speeding up. I gotta get more comfortable here. Hold on. All right. In fact, it's so freaky, particles popping up out of nowhere, time slowing down and speeding up, particles reacting and communicating with each other even when separated by thousands of miles, that the only thing scientists have done with this information so far is develop technology that allows us to blow each other up, send text messages, receive cell phone messages, and nuke our Hungry Man TV dinners. Okay? Even the two main fundaments of physical reality, of physical reality, space and time, are not what they seem. These two physical mainstays are nothing but extremely convincing optical illusions. Physicists like Bernard, I have no idea, d'Espagnat, recent winner of the 1.4 million Templeton Prize, tell us it's high time we trade in our old formulation of natural law for a radically different, more accurate view of reality, namely that consciousness itself creates the material world. Okay? Even though every physicist on the planet knows about the freaky universe where matter pops into existence from nothing at all, really, matter pops into existence from nothing at all, every physicist on the planet knows this. Matter pops into existence from nothing at all. Okay. And where electrons can jump from one orbit to another without traveling across intervening space, most have chosen to ignore it. Now, why would they do that? To shrug their shoulders and to employ the old tween standby. Whatever. Really? You're a physicist and you're ignoring this? And you know it to be true? That doesn't make any sense. It's not that they're in total denial. As I mentioned, they've used the new physics to develop lasers, transistors, superconductors, and atom bombs. Yeah, there's a good one. But they can't even begin to explain how this quantum world works. As physicist James Trefl observed, we've encountered an area of the universe our brains just aren't wired to understand. A few brave physicists are starting to acknowledge that their precious assumptions may be wrong. They're admitting that the fundamental tenets of material reality, as my nose continues to itch, stop doing that, you damn particles. Anyway, tenets of material reality just don't hold up. Some are even brave enough to admit that consciousness itself creates the physical world. As Dr. Fred Alan Wolf, a physicist popularly known as Dr. Quantum, says, it boils down to this: the universe doesn't exist without a perceiver of that universe. Yes, we observe the particles and they behave differently when we put an observer on them and watch them. Yeah, the double slit experiment. I saw it on YouTube. If you haven't watched that video, watch the video of the double slit experiment. It is mind-boggling. I'll grant that. All I have to say is about time. A Course in Miracles, a self-study program in spiritual psychology that I've been practicing and teaching for 25 years, has always advocated the idea that consciousness creates the material world. Yeah, I've never read A Course in Miracles. I'm aware of it, though. It says we humans decide in advance how we're going to experience life, that we choose beforehand what we want to see. The problem is, we all look at the world with a giant chip on our shoulder. All we need to do to change the course of our crummy lives is to get over our ongoing grudge against the world. All right, you got me there. To actively see and expect a different reality. Yeah, I definitely have a grudge with the world. I got a bone to pick with God, like we all do. Yeah. What the hell's going on? As it is now, we devote all our time and attention, our consciousness, if you will, to things we do not want. Okay. But it's nothing more than a bad habit. And try to move this again because I'm just feeling like it's too far away. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But it's nothing more than a bad habit. Period. And like any bad habit, I can't. I edited my own books because I couldn't. At the time, I have to say it. I don't want to say it like never say you can't afford something, because that's a thought. Those words. At the time, I couldn't afford it. I still can't. But anyway, but I learned how to edit, and I got pretty good at it. There's no way you're supposed to start. I guess you can start sentences with the word "and." I think that technically is, but I don't understand why they didn't put a comma here. But it's nothing more than a bad habit. And like any bad habit, well, I guess it's a separate sentence. I guess. It can be changed with conscious and deliberate effort. Why am I saying these things while I'm reading this to you? I don't know. Sorry if this is becoming a poorly done video. All right, in bold, it is what it isn't. Quote, man's concept of his world built on the experience of the five senses is no longer adequate and in many cases no longer valid. Shafika Karagula, MD, Turkish-born psychiatrist. Okay? Well, he's Turkish-born, so he must know what he's talking about. Right now, the planet you call home is spinning at a rate of roughly 930 miles per hour. Hell no, we would have flown off into space if that was true. Anyway, it's orbiting the sun at an astonishing 66,486 miles per hour, and this is why I see why people believe the world is flat. But unless you just, and again, she's beginning with but, not comma, but unless you just, I got to stop correcting her grammar. Whoever your editor is, they suck though. But unless you just polished off a couple pitchers of beer, you probably aren't aware of any such movement. That's just one tiny example of how we distort reality. Oh, by the way, I don't drink beer. Never have. Never liked it. Don't understand how anybody can drink that crap. I try to drink it. I get a headache. It's just, ugh. I don't know why people drink that garbage. But I drink Mountain Dew, and I used to drink a lot of Coke and Pepsi, so that's not good either. Turns out that almost all the concepts and judgments we take for granted are distortions. Very early on, say sometime around birth, our minds establish a pattern of perception and then proceed to filter out everything else. In other words, we only experience things that jibe with our very limited perception. A girl from the Philippines told me it was weeks, if not months, after she arrived in the United States before she noticed that some people here had red hair, including people she knew and dealt with on a regular basis. Red hair was inconsistent with what she had been conditioned to see and expect. So for several months, she was subjectively blind to red hair, seeing it as the brunette of her culture. Scientists now know the brain receives 400 billion bits of information each second. How can scientists possibly know that? They know the brain receives 400 billion bits of information each second. Okay, I'm sorry. To give you some idea of just how much information that is, consider this. It would take nearly 600,000 average-sized books just to print 400 billion zeros. Needless to say, that's a heck of a lot of reality. That's why I ain't buying it. So what do? We start screening. We start narrowing down. I'll take that bit of information over there, and let's see, this one fits nicely with my ongoing soap opera about the opposite sex. Oh, by the way, whoever suggested that I read this book, could you leave a comment letting me know? Because it was in one of my other videos that somebody said they started doing this and they thought it was really cool. And I said, hey, I'm going to go check that book out right now. So whoever you are, I don't remember your name, so if you could leave a comment saying, "Hey, I was the person," I'd love to just say thank you, because even though this chapter is annoying me, and I want to slap this woman right now upside her head, saying, "How in the hell do you claim these things?" But yeah, that's just me. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood right now. Who knows? I'll take that bit of information over there. Blah 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 blah. Okay. And let's see, this one fits nicely with my ongoing soap opera about the opposite sex. When all is said and done, we're down to 2,000 measly bits of information. Go ahead and take a bow, because even that's pretty impressive. I have no idea what she's talking about. We're talking 2,000 bits of information each and every second. But here's the problem. What we choose to take in is only 1/2 of 1/1,000,000% of what's out there. Okay. Let's pretend that each dot of a pen point is one bit of information. I've been practicing, and most dots I can reasonably make in 1 second is 5. Oh, the most dots I can make, right. But let's be generous and assume you're a better pen dotter than I am. Let's pretend you can make 10 dots per second. Again, we're assuming each dot is a bit of information. To make as many dots as your brain processes in 1 second, takes nearly 3.5 minutes at your highly superior rate of 10 dots per second. But if your brain were processing all the available information, 400 billion dots, it would take 821 years. Our brains continually sift through the possibilities and pick which bits of information to see and believe. What are you possibly basing this on? Out of sheer laziness, the stuff we choose to perceive, and make no mistake, it is a choice, is stuff we already know. It's stuff we decided on way back when. We see, feel, taste, touch, and smell not the real world, but a drastically condensed version of the world, a version that our brains literally concoct. So what you're claiming here is that the perceived world is, we only are getting a teeny tiny glimpse of what the perceived actual world is. And we're only processing a teeny tiny bit, and we're missing 99.9999% of it. Okay. I ain't buying it. Because that makes no sense. Okay, the rest zooms by without recognition. John Monsell, a neuroscientist at Harvard University, says, people imagine they're seeing what's really there, but they're not. Oh, so that wasn't a bus that just drove by us? What was that? What are you talking about? Oh, you don't understand. There's billions of things you didn't notice. You just noticed the physical thing. Okay, fine. Once your brain decides which bits to let in, it lets in what it sees. I could go on and on. I'm never going to get through this. I'm on page 9. Once your brain decides which bits to let in, it builds bridges between various nerve cells, interlacing nerve fibers to create neural pathways. The average human has 100 billion nerve cells, each with innumerable extensions, so different highways get built in each brain. The map of neural pathways in your brain and, say, Johnny Depp's brain are as different as the maps of Wisconsin and Rhode Island. Okay. Once you get the pathways set up, then how come we all agree on what we see and nobody's saying, wait, that's not what's there? Why aren't we having completely different versions of what everybody, we're all processing the same damn thing? Or are we not? Trump is president, right? Trump is a pathological liar and a lunatic. Stephen Miller is the main guy running the show. Y'all know this, right? Or am I perceiving something that isn't true? I'm getting frustrated. Once you get the pathways set up, you quit traveling the rest of the country. Interstate 70 in my home state of Kansas makes a perfect metaphor. Believe it or not, Kansas, the state the Wizard of Oz portrayed in black and white, actually contains lots of geological landmarks. There is a miniature Grand Canyon in the northwest corner, for example, and a huge 7-story limestone formation called Castle Rock near the town of Quinter. But since people traveling through Kansas rarely leave I-70, nobody has a clue that these geological formations exist. They've literally bypassed all the beautiful, worthwhile stuff and come to the erroneous conclusion that Kansas is flat and boring. But it's not reality. That was a sentence. But it's not reality. I guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Doesn't sound right. Sounds like that should be a comma. That Kansas is flat and boring, comma, but it's not reality. No, period, but it's not reality. You make about as much sense as your editor edits. Like those highway planners who put I-70 on the flattest, quickest, and easiest route, we build our neural pathways on the least complicated routes, the ones we've traveled so many times before. But this doesn't show us reality. Not even close. Oh, so we're all missing reality. We're all missing it. Maybe monsters are in this world. Maybe Dungeons and Dragons is the real world and there's wizards and clerics casting magical spells and we just don't notice. I can acknowledge, I can see that being a possibility. Sure. We don't begin to see... Oh, no. But this doesn't show us reality, not even close. We don't begin to see all that is there. Only 3.5 minutes compared to 821 years. The roads and highways of our brains get set up pretty early. When we're born, every possibility exists. Let's take language, for example. Within every newborn is the ability to pronounce every sound in every single language. The potential is there for the R rolling of the Spanish language. It's also there for those guttural German diphthongs. Okay, right. Any language you grow up with, you're going to start speaking, correct. But very early on, our brains lay down neural pathways that mesh with the sounds we hear every day, eliminating other sounds from other languages. Okay, I can see that. With the possible exception of Barbara Walters, pretty much everyone who speaks English can pronounce the following phrase: Rolling Rock really rouses Roland Rutinsky. But when people from China try to learn English, they no longer have the neural pathways to properly say their R's. So that's why fried rice becomes flied lice. Just so no one thinks I'm ethnocentric, yeah, because you don't want to offend anybody. Careful. Yeah, we're in the twilight zone now. I should probably add that I've tried pronouncing some of those guttural German words only to discover that my German neural pathways have been shot to hell and back. Okay? Rough ruck. Perhaps the best example of how your mind creates its own virtual reality game is the everyday garden variety dream. When Morley Safer showed up on your doorstep last night asking all those embarrassing questions, it seemed pretty darn real. Okay? But once the alarm clock went off, Morley in that virtual 60 minutes interview popped like the flimsy soap bubble it was. Yeah, that's what happens to dreams when you wake up. Our neural pathways establish reruns of what has gone on before. Is dreaming just another reality? I've often wondered, but we've all wondered that. Like the 3-year-old who insists on watching The Little Mermaid over and over and over again, we cling to our warped illusions with a tenacious grip. Get your bloody hands off my illusion. Even though it makes us miserable, we prefer to place our faith in the disaster we have made. Bold face. We observe things into form. Quote, it takes zero faith. What it takes is imagination. If it's clear in your thought, it is even this moment barreling down on you like a Mack truck. Richard Bach, author of Illusions and Other Metaphysical Novels. If you ask me, learning how to transform energy is so important it should be taught along with reading. Well, yeah, if you can do this, sure. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. 100% agree, if it's true. And it all starts with intent, the force that lies behind everything. It's the energy, the fuel, the electric charge that sets up a resonant field and sends out probability waves into the FP. Esther Hicks, who claims she's channeling some spirit of some other person, who facilitates the Abraham Hicks material, calls it launching a rocket of desire. How do you know that woman isn't a con artist and a total fraud? She's claiming this imaginary person that she speaks through, right? I know only a little bit about her. Never bought what she says. She's created a career for herself, though, and she's very popular. Giving it attention adds mass. The minute you make an intention, you create it. It's instantaneous. It exists as an actual thing. Let me go back. The probability waves in the FP. Esther Hicks, who facilitates the Abraham Hicks material, calls it launching a rocket of desire. Giving it attention adds mass. The minute you make an intention, you create it. It's instantaneous. It exists as an actual thing. You don't see it yet because you're still operating from linear time. You're still sold on the old school adage, creating things takes time. That's literally a fact, but okay. So you keep working and waiting. You keep following the 7 steps from the latest self-help book. But here's what physicists tell us. Things in the quantum world do not happen in steps. They happen immediately. Sure. I can create something in my imagination immediately. Is that similar? So the thing you intend, the minute you intend it, exists. But like Schrodinger's cat, a famous thought experiment devised in 1935 by Austrian physicist Erwin Schrödinger, you're only aware of the reality you choose to observe. I often thought that Schrödinger did some LSD and had some weird, bizarre concept there with his cat. But regardless, it's never made much sense to me. The physical manifestation remains enfolded outside your current consciousness. Cutting-edge physicists. Oh, cutting-edge physicists. Are you a physicist or are you a cutting-edge physicist? I don't want to talk to no damn physicist. You better be cutting-edge, damn it. Cutting-edge physicists tells us life is multi-dimensional. How do they know? But most of us are stuck in our one-dimensional physical reality, restricted to what we experience with our 5 senses. What we experience with these alleged foolproof tools of observation are nothing but what we decide to look for. It's not even a chicken or egg question. What we see, experience, and feel with our 5 senses always comes after the decision to see, experience, and feel it. I liken consciousness to a giant skyscraper. I may be living on the 2nd floor, but the thing I created with my thought is up on the 17th floor. Until I can get to the 17th floor, it appears it's still missing, that I'm still waiting. Another great analogy is a television set. If you have cable, more than 100 channels are yours for the clicking. TiVo aside, you can only watch one channel at a time. When you're watching, say, Modern Family, you're chucking at the antics of Cam, Mitchell, Phil, and Gloria, and you're completely unaware of the other 99 or more channels. That's why it's really important to stay on the channel you want. Don't give any airtime to the reality from which you're trying to escape. Tune in only to your intent. Boldface. Reasons we dial into programs we don't like. Quote, we live in a world that worships limitations. Tama Keeves, author of This Time I Dance. 1. We're not really here. Not in this moment. The now is the point of power. If we're not really here, then what? That's why it's so easy for a yogi who consciously clears out mental static to change his heart rate, pulse, and other body functions. If you're not really here, your mind is not available to do what you're asking it to do. It's imperative to practice conscious, moment-by-moment awareness. Otherwise, you're operating out of old, encrusted beliefs. Beliefs you downloaded before you were 5 years old. Do you really want a 5-year-old running your life? That's the damn problem. We're just a bunch of 5-year-old kids running our own life and we don't even know it. When I find my consciousness operating outside the now, you're not really here. Okay. Which is unfortunately a great percentage of the time. I gently remind myself of this analogy. The UPS driver just delivered to my house every single thing I've ever wanted, but because I've left the building, I don't even realize it. Whatever. I think she did some LSD. I'm out hunting for paltry substitutes. Everything is right there once I bring my consciousness back to the timelessness of now. 2, we've named it difficult. The power to create with our thoughts is a piece of cake. That's not even up for debate. Right. But we keep telling our friends, and especially ourselves, that it's hard or that we're still working on it. You should have put a comma before you said, or that we're still working on it. Boy, I am a real pest, aren't I? Just notice in the next couple of days how often you affirm that it's hard or challenging. Boy, I hope Pam sees me reading her book. Anyway, pay attention to how often you say, things have always been like that, or it runs in my family. We spend so much time talking about what doesn't work that we miss the whole point, namely that we have the power to create something that does work. Okay, 3, we stalk negativity. Yeah. Meditation got rid of it for a month for me, and then it slowly crept back in. Bizarre. We stalk negativity. What do we study? Disease problems, disasters of the past. What do we prepare for? Emergencies. We love to sink our teeth into problems and ask, what's wrong? It's an old school model that sorely needs transformation. Once we begin to look for what's right, our lives begin spinning in unimaginably exciting new directions. Okay, sign me up for that. And here's the truth. Every wrong thing, which in reality is nothing but a foolhardy judgment, has a flip side. Lack is the flip side of abundance. Sickness is the flip side of health. Both ideas exist at the same time. Both are true. By choosing to see one aspect, the other equally likely aspect is hidden. Am I supposed to process this through the 400 billion bits of things that I'm going through every second of my ideal? Just a question for you, Pam. Unfortunately, while living in the consciousness of space and time, you can only observe one side of the coin at a time. I thought you just said we'd go through all the kinds of things. Okay, whatever. Period. But it's important to realize that the other side is just as real and that at any time... I'm going to have a real hard time reading this book. It's grammatically really bad. You can simply flip it over. You can simply flip it over. Yeah, I can see that. Opposites, for example, abundance, lack, are both true. It's a question of which reality you'd rather live from. It's not a question. Everybody would rather live from abundance. This is the fact. You want lack or do you want abundance? I'll think about it. Can I think about it? Abundance or lack? I don't know. It's a question of which reality you'd rather live. It's a. Go around and survey 100 people, and 100 said abundance. 4, by George, we think we've got it. Once you define something, you no longer question it. Once you know something, it becomes your reality. But knowing anything is exceedingly restrictive. I'm about halfway through this. In quantum speak, how long has it been? 43 minutes. Well, this will just be a long video. Once you know something, okay. But knowing anything is exceedingly restrictive. In quantum speak, it collapses the wave, leaving no room for mystery, wonder, and new discoveries. Think about it. If one of your arms is filled with books and the other with a bag of groceries, it's impossible to pick up anything else. You may have a lot of knowledge and a bunch of academic degrees framed and hanging on the second floor of that skyscraper, period. But remember, there are lots of other floors, that is, dimensions, and all that you know can block potentialities. All right, I'm just going to finish this page, and I think I'm going to stop here, and we'll continue this tomorrow. Pretty sure. 5, The mind is so powerful it can create something outside itself to be more powerful. That's why it's essential when doing the experiments to suspend judgment. Oh, no problem. Well, it might be a problem for me, but I'm going to try. Long enough to believe they'll work. Yeah, I agree. If you're convinced they're a family-sized bucket of bull, you'll collect data to support that viewpoint. Yeah, okay. 6, we haven't really practiced. Using the FP to direct your life is not an intellectual exercise. It's not a theory. It's a practice, like mastering scales or learning to play ping pong. Tiger Woods may have only been 18 when he won the U.S. Amateur Championship, but he'd already racked up 16 years of practice. And I think he was born with a golf club, actually, but that's just me. And he still devotes many hours a day to conditioning and practice. You cannot know wisdom. You can only be wisdom, and that's where this book comes in. And that's where I'm going to end. I'm not going to continue until later. This book is frustrating the hell out of me with how, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, how poorly it is written. Boy, that's frustrating to me. I remember when I first read through my book how many errors I found and corrected, and then I read through it again and I still found a whole bunch of errors, and I read through it again and I still found a whole bunch. I went through that damn book, 540 pages, 6 freaking times, and I refused to go through it a 7th time. Because the 6th time I only made like 10, 20 corrections. And I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to do it. And so I know there's still errors in there. But I'm not an editor. I did the best I could. One guy told me, one author told me, who's written 7 books, he says, it's impossible to edit your own work. He said, because you don't read it carefully. And I said, that's all I needed to hear. And I read it slowly. 6 freaking times. I saw so many errors. Mid-sentence, period, but... that's basic. That's basic grammar. How? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and that this is correct grammar, and I'm just dumb. That was annoying. But that last thing, yeah, she's right. The mind is so powerful it can create something outside itself to be more powerful. That's why it's essential when doing the experiments to suspend judgment long enough to believe they'll work. I want this to work. The only way this is going to work is I have to give this the benefit of the doubt, suspend all judgments, and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is going to work, and I have to believe it's going to work. Because if I go, well, this is all a bunch of crap, but hey, I'll try it, because why not? Well, no. And I did not go about this with Neville Goddard. See, people keep saying, you didn't believe. I'm like, bullcrap, I didn't believe. I was convinced it was going to work. I was excited. I was getting my life back and finally going to get the life that I've always wanted since I was 18 or 21 if you want to go with that. But no, even 18 because my God. And growing up with a father who suffered from depression and mood swings his whole life, who'd go into the bedroom and close the door because he couldn't want to be in front of his kids in the mood he was in. You know, that affected me too. And then I see that life doesn't work. It worked when I was 10. Everything was great. My parents had enough money that we lived in a house and had a yard, and I could go out and play, and I could, I had to go to school, and I'd come home from school and do my homework, and then I was free. I could do whatever I want. And all of a sudden, I wasn't free anymore, and I had to go out and succeed, and I didn't know how to do it. And when I found it was a struggle, I got mad. I got angry. I got depressed. I went into a shell. I didn't know what to do. I'm just trying to live my life, but life keeps getting in the way. That was my motto. I'm just trying to live my life, but life keeps getting in the way. Won't let me do what I want to do. I said, nope, can't do that. Nope, no. And that frustrated me to no end. And I saw how my dad used his depression as a crutch. But when they put me on meds and the damn crap worked, I got mad. I was on Depakote and Zoloft when I was married. But, well, actually, it was when we were separated, when I finally got on Depakote and Zoloft, and the damn crap worked. The first time I went on meds, it wasn't Depakote and Zoloft, it was something else, and it worked. And I was so angry that it worked, because that meant there was something wrong with me. So you need to take this pill, Mr. Meineke. You have to take this pill. This will make you function like a normal human being. And when it worked and I was better, that told me, oh, see, they're right. You are messed up. There's something wrong with you. And I was so mad that I took those pills and I chucked them into the damn swamp area where we lived. There was like a lagoon or something. I said, screw this crap. Oh, yeah, my wife didn't like when I did that. But I was mad. I said, so I need pills to function. And I've been functioning without meds now for 12 years, 13 years. Not perfectly. Yeah, me and every other human being on the planet. Not perfectly. So what? Look, if the secret is everything is particles and energy and waves, and all we got to do is recreate our reality with our consciousness by connecting to the divine consciousness that is within us and is permeating throughout the entire universe, then that should be really easy, yet it's not. Because if it was, we'd all be doing it. So it's not easy. And oh, look, Neville's ladder experiment proved it's not easy. Proved only a few people will climb the ladder. Yet she's telling me right in here, oh, look, it's really easy. Maybe in theory, it's really easy. Believe that you already have it and it shall be yours. That's easy. But it's not that easy. Life is hard. Life is a challenge. And maybe that's what it's supposed to be. I don't know. Who knows? We're all just grasping at straws trying to figure this all out. 52 minutes. I might as well just end it. I'll read the rest of this tomorrow. When I start on experiment 1, it'll be 2 or 3 days before I start on experiment 2. And experiment 1 is going to work. And then I'm going to do experiment 2. And experiment 2 is going to work. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make this work. And so are you. We're all going to make this work. We're all going to figure this out. Despite my frustration with this thing that I'm reading right now with her poorly edited stuff, or maybe I'm just wrong, I will concede the possibility that I'm overthinking my reading here. Somebody tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, because wow, the number of poorly worded sentences was annoying. I do have a book that's like 10 times worse than this, and I wondered why the person even made the books. Like, did you even proofread your work? I have a book that some guy mentioned in a post on Facebook. It was a D&D-ish book. So I went, oh, I'll just buy it. It was like $14. It was like a year ago. I just bought it, and I told him, hey, I bought your book. And he goes, oh, thanks. And I got the book in the mail, and I started to read it. I'm like, what in the heck? I mean, this is a scholarly work compared to what the crap that man wrote. It was like really sad. So I have no idea if it's any good because I couldn't read it. It was so bad. Crazy. All right. We'll see what happens. My plan is to read the rest of this introduction tomorrow, which will be Friday. And Saturday we'll begin experiment 1. All right? Y'all take care. Bye-bye.